It is beyond our capacity to hate you. It is beyond our capacity to enjoy murdering you. We have grown beyond our capacity.
There is a large subsection of X-Men fans that tend to view the period between Grant Morrison's New X-Men and Jonathan Hickman's Hawks and Pox era as non-existent. While it's hard to deny that the franchise was in a bit of a rut at the time, due to a combination of the fallout from the event comic House of M, as well as the overall push to highlight the Inhumans over the X-Men when the MCU was at its peak, sweeping aside more than a decade of comics never felt right to me. Even fans who don't like this era will be forced to admit that comics like the late Peter David's second X-Factor run and Rick Remender's Uncanny X-Force were both pretty amazing. But we're not talking about either of those today. No, you read the title, and so you know that the comic in question is the crossover Second Coming. Published in mid 2010, this crossover could essentially be called the second act in the Decimation saga of the X-Men. After the Scarlet Witch demolished the mutant population in the climax of the event House of M, there was an additional side effect, which was that no more mutants were being born. Until a new mutant was detected in the event Messiah Complex as a baby, which is worth noting because mutants usually emerge at puberty. After a five-way slugfest for the baby between the X-Men, the Marauders, the Purifiers, Bishop, and Predator X, Cyclops tells Cable to take the baby into the future and raise it away from all this. That should be enough context. So, here's a brief summary of Cable returns with the child to the present, now a teenager and named Hope, to the wreckage of Charles Xavier's mansion. However, they are immediately attacked by the Purifiers, who are under the command of Bastion, who has united all the human factions wanting to kill mutants under his banner, and resurrected several of their leaders with alien tech. Cyclops sends a team of X-Men to find and bring Hope and Cable to Utopia, which is the current location where most of the mutant population is housed. However, as the Purifiers and the X-Men clash, the former also go out of their way to remove as many of the latter's teleporters as they can. This includes Magic, Vanisher, Ariel, and Nightcrawler, with the latter two dying. However, before he dies, Kurt manages to bring Hope to Utopia in one piece. However, it turns out Bastion had a backup plan. By taking all their teleporters out, destroying their transport with an embedded Donald Pierce, and distracting their science team, the X-Club, away from Utopia, the android sets up a force field that encapsulates the island, trapping all the mutants present there, as well as the humans from part of San Francisco that also ended up there. Bastion then opens a portal to his future and starts sending in Nimrod Sentinels to wipe out the mutants. For context, a single Nimrod can take on an entire team of X-Men by itself. Out of desperation, Cyclops sends Cable, who has one more time jump left after jumping around with Hope all this time, Cypher, who can communicate with machines, and X-Force to Bastion's future to shut down the Nimrod production taking place there. They successfully do so, with Cable sacrificing himself so that they could use Bastion's portal to return to the present. However, Bastion isn't done yet and attacks Hope directly, just as her mutant ability activates. She calls in the powers of multiple mutants at once, overwhelming Bastion and destroying the force field. In the aftermath, Emma Frost notices a phoenix outline around Hope, but that's a problem for another day. As Cyclops notices, that 5 new mutants have appeared all over the world. The mutant race has been reborn. A fair question, as there's a lot of reasons in which this story would feel subpar to longtime readers and anyone approaching this story from the future. The fact that mutants going extinct seems to be an almost go-to plot point for X-Men writers these days. The fact that almost every death in this story is undone fairly quickly. The fact that the follow-ups to this story would pile upon more and more disappointing status quos for these characters. Greg Land's art. So yeah, I understand. And yet, something about this story manages to work for me. It sells the desperation of the characters as they are forced to make one hard decision after another. People, or aliens if you want to be technical, like Warlock break their no-kill rule to stop the Purifiers from assembling their army. However, Cyclops, as the leader of the X-Men, arguably has it worst. Forced to create X-Force to kill threats in advance, constantly sending his friends and his son on missions that would be basically considered suicide. What sells it further is how everyone around him reacts. Beast and Storm hate him for it. Cannonball and Emma Frost support him without question. Even loose cannons like Namor and Magneto willingly join up with him and do their part. Speaking of Magneto, that brings me to the fact that Second Coming feels like a last stand for these characters. And yes, this takes place on an island off San Francisco, so feel free to draw your comparisons, even though I feel they are superficial at best. We see Magneto, barely able to walk, not willing to just lie down and die while his species is being obliterated. We see Charles Xavier asking his son Legion, normally extremely unstable, to unleash himself against the Nimrods. We see characters like Phantom X and Domino doing their best in that fight even though they're horribly outmatched. And as Cyclops gives a speech to the non-combatant mutants on the island to help out, we see them getting ready to fight back as well. Even the Avengers and the Fantastic Four show up and try to destroy the force field, with the Thing and Thor nearly killing themselves in the effort. Also, the various members of the X-Men take severe damage throughout the whole affair, with some like Karma and Helion carrying their scars from this fight well after. Even Bastion as a villain gets to deliver one of the best villain lines I have ever heard. So, while this may feel like just another Wednesday for the X-Men, there are a lot of little moments that make the story more than just another X crossover. Granted, there are so many of those, I can't blame you if you don't want to dive into this one, but maybe check it out if I have managed to pique your interest.